been doing this 30 years. Why don't you give us a little bit, just, you know, that you've been
Yeah,
doing?
well, my whole story really started in my late 20s. I was starting to read. I'd read a lot of astrology books, and then I got into books on psychics. I thought, boy, some lifetime I'd like to come back as a psychic. I didn't think you could develop it. I didn't know it was a learnable skill. Like, I've been told that you can learn to sing with training, and I know I had learned to swim with training, and I learned to ride a bicycle with training. Well, you can also develop your intuition with training. But anyway, I read about Edgar Cayce. He was America's greatest psychic, and he lived in the 1800s to 1945. And you spell his name Cayce, C-A-Y-C-E. I'm actually a lecturer with the Edgar Cayce Foundation in Virginia Beach. But the point is that Cayce would be able to do readings by just laying down and kind of going to sleep and focusing in on people. He had an amazing gift. But it didn't really say much about how he developed that, except that he read the Bible every day. So based on that one clue, I started reading the Bible every day with the goal of being more psychic. And interestingly enough, God answered. Within 2 weeks, I was given a book called Dream Power by Anne Faraday, and that book said half of all dreams come true. And I thought, well, that's interesting. So I decided that night to write down my first dream. And as it so happened, it was in December of, I believe, 79, 78, December 78. I was living in the Bay Area here in California, and it was on the news that Skylab, this 3-ton space lab, was going to fall to Earth, and they said it might fall on somebody. And because I came from a family where there was a lot of violence and fear, I assumed it was going to fall on me. So I went
The world is all about me.
Yes,
I had that problem too when I was a child.
It's the Chicken Little syndrome. Anyway, so I went to sleep worrying about this satellite, and on the very same day that I'd read this book about you have to write your dreams down to develop your psychic ability. So I wrote it down. And sure enough, that first night I dreamed about a satellite falling on me, my family, and we were in a tall building in Perth, Australia. Well, I'd never been to Perth, Australia, but I wrote it down. And it hit, you know, my mother was in a dream. She was wearing one of those highway worker orange vests, so that to me meant danger and all this. And I probably forgot about it. I thought, oh, you can't get the first dream right. You know, you're just starting out. But a few months later, it was back in the news. Skylab's going to fall down. We don't know where. And I happened to reread the dream, and something in my stomach went, you know. And that is it. That little nudge or feeling you get in your stomach, pay attention. That is the clue you all need to know. And that little voice said, call Australia. This is long before internet, faxes, or anything. This is a long time ago. So I went to the library and I asked the librarian, can you give me the newspaper, the name of the newspaper in Perth? And she looked it up, and she had a phone number. And I called him, and I said, I'm calling from California. I had a dream that Skylab's going to come down in Perth, and it's going to hit a tall building. Now, I don't know, I don't expect everybody to leave tall buildings, but I'm going to feel terrible. If it does happen and I don't tell anybody, I would feel terrible. So I don't want anybody hurt just because I didn't say something. So I talked to the editor of the paper. His name was Ralph Uren, and he interviewed me and published it in the newspaper, and within 2 days it fell down within 400 miles of Perth. It broke up in pieces. And so I called myself the Skylab Psychic because of that, because it really was an amazing hit. Like he said, in terms of space travel, 400 miles is particularly close. And the PS to the story is I could never figure out what was that tall building, because it never did hit a tall building. But I kept the newspaper article in the San Francisco Chronicle. I carried it around for a long time, and the front page shows this tall building with Skylab going over. So they were showing me an alternative view. Had I seen it miss the building, I wouldn't have called.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
It was my wake-up call.
Mm-hmm.
So we get our wake-up calls in different ways. And they say if you're good at something in the beginning, if you have an early success in something, that means you're on your path. Well, I was feet first on my path. I started out with this wonderful hit. Haven't really done anything really spectacular since. I still impress myself with that one. How did I do that? Well, I didn't do it. My higher self did that. My guides did that. My angels did that. God did that. That's what I really think.
Well, they needed you to get on the path.